Okay. Well, I'm excited. We have Coach Drake here from Green River College. Coach Drake played in college himself, Southern Mississippi, University of Southern Mississippi, and then was an assistant at Green River, and then was a head high school coach, and now is going took over back in 2017 at Green River and is now the head coach there and has led them to some great records, finished second in a really tough region of the NWAC. And so we're going to tell you guys a little bit about the NWAC, kind of what that is, and then try to just give you guys some information. A lot of the guys on the call, Coach Drake, are either kids that are at Pacific or players from my team Push, the club team, or some kids from Max Hoops. So it's a lot of high school age players or kids that are coming into college. That's kind of who the audience is. But maybe, Coach, do you want to I gave you a little brief background, but do you want to tell the guys kind of a little bit more about your playing and how you got into coaching?
So you said tell about my playing and coaching?
Yeah, kind of how did you get from playing in college into coaching?
So basically, when I was done at the University of Southern Mississippi, got the opportunity to play on some traveling teams overseas, and really started to make a knack. Was about to start knocking down some doors with getting some actual real money, and I dunked the ball, and a guy, came under my legs, and I fell backwards. So fell on my neck, had career-ending back surgery. So I have 2 rods in my back. And that's how my playing career ended. And then after that, Dad just told me, man, like, all right, you're hanging out at the house. You're doing your recovery. I'm happy for you, but we got to get you doing something in your life. So I ended up just pointing out on the map, and he said, man, look, they have an air traffic control program out at Green River in Seattle. I had never been, I'd gone overseas, obviously, but I'd never really been out of the South when it comes to the United States, outside of just traveling to a few games. So Seattle was like, what? I just thought it was a bunch of hippies, out in the middle of nowhere, just out in Seattle. So I had no idea. Came out and fell in love with Seattle. And I actually thought I was going to do air traffic control until I went to an actual ATC center and saw how stressed out those people were, looking at those screens, bringing in planes all the time. And I said, man, this is not a good life choice for me. I don't want to be stressed out, seeing a shrink, 3-4 times a week. So didn't think that was a good idea, and happened to be on campus at the same time as the head coach, Tim Malroy, at the time at Green River, and ran into him, and they were looking for an assistant coach at that point in time. And I hadn't even really thought about coaching, and I was 25 at that point in time, and he was just like, yeah, man, we need to get you in, because at first he thought I was a player, honestly. He really was talking to me. He was like, man, what are you doing? I need to get you in the gym. And I was like, bro, my eligibility is gone. So that kind of deflated him in the first place. But then he figured out I could help him in another way. So that's kind of how I got into coaching. Very lucky. You don't start out in college like that. That doesn't happen every day. You just get a college coaching job just right off the bat, just starting out. So I got that, and the rest is, is really history. Just took off from there and really learned a lot from him as a mentor. And then, he told me after 4 years, he was like, I gotta let you loose, man. You you need your own program. You just got too much going on. So he really, really helped ignite my career.
You do got a lot going on there, Coach Drake. So you went from there after 4 years, and then did you get in high school coaching?
Yeah, I did high school coaching, local high school, Kent Lake High School, not too far from Green River. So I really like this block that I'm on, honestly. But yeah, I did that for 4 years, and then actually was going to get out of coaching for a little while because my kids were extremely young at that point in time. So I really just thought about, getting out of coaching for a minute, and actually went through the steps of doing that. But then Eastside Prep, which is a local school around here, that they hadn't even won a game. Their program was such an upstart program and 1A basketball in Washington. They were just like, look, man, we'll give you whatever you need. Just help us out. And so I told them about my schedule, restraints, and they just allowed me to just kind of come over there and help jumpstart their program for a year. And that's when the Green River job came open. Was after that was supposed to be a hiatus year for me. And Green River came open, and I was like, I can't pass this opportunity up to go back to the program, and came back. So been coaching overall. This is year 4 as a head coach going into this year. Year 1 was a cleanup year. Just had to make sure guys are going to class and everything, and getting their academics and everything right. And we were all freshmen, and building culture and making sure the campus was in love with the program. And then, year 2 was the year where we really took off and had a 20-win season, and made an Elite 8 appearance, really got after, teams. And we were a broken nose away, we like to say, from a Final Four appearance. Our second best player, Alex Summerfield, got his nose broken in the first 3 minutes of the Elite 8 game. And he was 5 for 5 from 3 at that point in time in the first 3 minutes. So you can't tell me that kid's not going for 40 that night. And that really hurt, to have him get his nose broken at that point in time. But the team just gelled so well, and they led to the next year's success, which was last year. We had another 15-win season, a lot of injuries, but still found a way, and through some weird tiebreaker rules, didn't make it to the tournament this year, even though the tournament didn't happen. We were in a 3-way tie for 3rd. And because one team played another team at the right time, we got left out, even though we were tied head-to-head with that team. Which doesn't make any sense to me, but it is what it is. So still another successful year. Green River hadn't had a 2-year stretch this good since the Trey Simmons years back in early 2000s, back when they had guys going to UW. So we've revived the program and breathed some life into it.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that you went from an assistant to high school, and then got the opportunity now to be a head college basketball coach. How do you credit the turnaround? I mean, culture, talk to me a little bit about your culture and how you get the Swamp Boys to play so hard and buy into your culture.
I think it starts out with the people I surround the program with, like my assistants, like Coach Garnett, Errol Garnett, has like been a linchpin in our system. Just the energy he brings, and he's a little older than me, but he brings that maturity that I need. Sometimes when he can be like, hey, you might just want to think about this, when I need it, in that moment to just kind of slow my roll. He helps keep me grounded, even, when I'm trying to, push, and he'll tell me, hey, maybe we should back off here, or maybe we should go harder, right here, really, really big for me. And before this year, Coach Dopkins, he had to move on. But both of those guys are like, they work in King County. They do, they're like engineers and work in the roads departments and coding departments. So those guys are like real true professionals. So having the guys be able to see, myself, as an internship coordinator at a high school, and seeing those guys like actual working professionals, they see that, okay, these guys are really living the talk that they try to give us about being, good young men and being leaders, you know. So it starts with them being able to see the success in us. And the team kind of feeds off my personality too. Like you can't be around me and like be a boring person. Like I just can't do it. Like it eats me up when I'm around you when I can't feel your energy. Like that don't work for me. And they know it. Guys know they can't fake the funk around me. They know that we're gonna tell jokes and we're gonna make fun of each other. And at the end of the day, we're gonna laugh it off. Nobody's gonna take it serious. It's not gonna be a personal thing. And like I told you before, like we in the practice, we always make sure we leave and everybody says something positive to everybody else. You know, you can't leave out of the gym without hearing something positive. And if you just buy into the fact that, man, I know I got a coach that's going to fight for me because the guys see me on the sideline on game days and I'm like, I'm sweating. Like I read all the books where they say, you know, maybe coaches should sit down and maybe coaches should do this and I'm just like, man, I got to be me, you know. It's not me trying to be seen. I just don't know how to sit down on the sideline. I just can't. I've tried. I told my guys, even though it was a tournament game, and I'm sure, you know, some of them might be listening, but like it was a tournament game the year we got to the Elite Eight. And I told him, I said, man, look, I'm going to sit down this whole game and I'm not going to say much. And I just want to see if you guys are going to really go get it, just go after it. And I sat down for like the first 3 minutes and those jokers were so dead. They came out so flat and I just couldn't do it. I looked at Garnett and I just said, hey, man, look, I'm about to light a fuse under these guys. And, you know, and I got in my defensive stance and I was just like, let's go. Let's pick it up, you know, and you got to just get up and just grind with your team sometimes. And I feel like they can feel my energy and they know that I'm always there with them. And I just can't help it. You know, that's how I was coached. And I don't really know how to be around basketball and not be passionate, you know. So our practices, we find ways to liven them up. And our Swamp Boys culture is built on that. It's built on like, you know, we have Max One. I don't know if you guys use Max One in your program, but like Max One is a weightlifting and it has like different training things in it. Like, if you want to run heels, if you want to do yoga, if you want to do, you know, like ball handling, you want to do all that stuff. It's on your phone. It's an app on your phone. And then you pull it up and like, you can see a leaderboard. So you can see who's like, we have a weightlifting program. So you can see, okay, who's doing the most in squats, who's doing the most. And it's not even about just who's lifting the most weight, but you can also see pound for pound which guy is actually the strongest guy. So you get guys, they get a little competitive when they're like, oh man, this dude is killing the leaderboard right now. And they want to get after each other a little bit, you know, when it comes to that. So you create this culture of consistency with that. And like we had this challenge, the year we went to the Elite Eight, I do want to say it probably, you know, started with when we created the challenge of trying to make 40,000 shots over the summer, you know, and, clearly nobody was going to really get there, but it was just the fact that guys started going and you would see a guy go and make 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 shots, you know, and they were starting to get those numbers up. And now you see it's early August and somebody has 28,000 makes, you know, and everybody else is like 27 or 24 or 25. And now guys are like, oh, is he cheating? What is really going on? You know, and guys started getting, you know, at each other with that kind of stuff. But now you can't be that guy that's not going to the gym. Because if guys don't see you checking in on we use the Marco Polo app to check in when we do workouts and that kind of stuff. So if guys don't see you in the gym and then all of a sudden your shot total goes up on Max One, they're calling you out. Bro, I didn't see you check in. Nah, don't work. Change that number. Coach, he's cheating. Change his number. Like guys were like texting me, you know, snitching on each other, all types of stuff, man. But then it got pretty cool because you get in the gym and you see guys actually making more shots, you know, and it wasn't, oh, I was this guru that I came up with this, hey, put your elbow here, have your feet like this. It was just the fact that guys were in the gym more. You know, they were in the gym more, and that consistency came, and we became a much better shooting team year 2 because guys started to compete with shooting, and we do that a lot in practice too. So that's kind of where our culture is built on, is like we compete with academics. We compete with, there's really nothing that we don't compete with. I mean, we have this joke going around still to this day. We played a Jenga game, right? And one of our guys who likes to argue, Austin, Derek was he maybe, still to this day, I'm gonna stay out of it. Maybe he knocked it over. But Austin was the one that everybody blamed it on. He was on the other team, obviously. But Austin still to this day will tell you, let it be known. That's the joke. Everybody always says, let it be known Derek knocked it over. Like, and guys get super competitive with Jenga, man. Like, you wouldn't think Jenga would be something serious, but like, it's people that everybody ready to fight each other over a Jenga game, man. Like, it's so competitive with these guys around that you can't help but to be a team that nobody wants to play because everybody's fighting so hard for each other and competing so hard.
Love that. Competitiveness and fighting for each other. I think those definitely, that forges a culture, right? Is just that everything, not, and I love that you said it's not just in shooting drills. It's everything, whether that's academics, ping pong, Jenga. And I think that those jokes of let it be known, I did not knock it, those are what makes culture and teams that are great teams, is the off the floor stuff, right? I feel like that sometimes the best teams I've been a part of are the ones where you have those bus trips and you spend time off the floor. That's what makes the closeness to where you then trust each other when it becomes time to perform on the floor.
Absolutely. Like you can't, I used to think there was this magic potion. You know, you go to these coaches clinics, you go to these things and you write down every word that they say. And, you know, they have all these really good lines and okay. And this, you know, we have this word, you know, and this is what hospitality means in our program, you know, and all this other stuff. And you go, okay, that's it. And that's how I was, you know, my high school, you know, coaching years was like, I got the catchphrase. This is going to do it for us this year. And the kids would see it and it didn't mean anything to them. So they're just looking at me like, okay, great one, coach. Good for you, you know. And you start realizing that that's not it. You know, that's somebody selling me something on I mean, and I'm not saying there's no value in the things that you can learn in those clinics, but at the same time, there's a ton of things you have to learn on your own about yourself and being authentic with yourself and being authentic with your team and that kind of stuff. I mean, yeah, you got to have some pillars that you build your program around. And as a player, you got to have some things that are just intrinsically in you. But if you don't find a way to make it relevant to them, you don't find a way to make your team buy into what they want and give them a say in it, they're never going to believe it. They're never going to believe it. And it doesn't matter how you package it. They have to see themselves in it. And that's the thing that's changed our program is my guys could see themselves in our program. They could see themselves as a Swamp Boy. They started to believe in what being a Swamp Boy meant over anything else.
I love what you said about, you thought that it was about the saying or the slogan or the catchphrase. And obviously you want to have a cool hashtag for your program, but it's not about the cool saying, the cool phrases. It's about the behaviors and the habits. That's what forms your culture, is your behavior. Your actions create your culture. So if you're going to say, oh, we stand by, he said hospitality or whatever our values are, it's how you live those values, not just what you say, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because like I can remember myself as a player and coaches would say stuff and I was the classic nod my head kid, like, yeah, I believe you, coach. In the back of my mind, I'm going, man, this guy is out of his mind, you know? And a lot of guys I started to notice, they're really good at making you believe that they believe in what you're saying. I had to learn that if they come up with it, they can't back away from it then, because this is what you created. This is what you came up with. This is what you said is important to the program. So now in turn, you have to make it come true now. And I love giving my players the autonomy to come up with it. But for you players that are on this call, you guys, you have to understand that that comes with that comes a healthy responsibility. You know, you have to come prepared to be able to be a leader. You know, everybody says they want to lead until it's time to lead. You know, until that failure is on you. You know, that's why, you know, people always say as an assistant coach, you have the best ideas until you move 6 inches over, right? And I didn't get that as an assistant coach. I was like, man, I just wait till I get over there. And then when you get over there and you make one of those decisions and it doesn't go right, and now everybody's looking at you like, wait a minute, why did you tell us to do that? You know, and as an assistant, it sounded good, you know, because it wasn't on you. You know, you can have a ton of ideas then, you know, but you know, when you move over those 6 inches and you start realizing, oh man, this is real. This is real now. Like this is on me. Everything is on. Even if I didn't do it, it's still on me. You know, that's as a player though, it's the same thing. You have to realize you have ownership in all of that. So you have to make your coach be right. You know, even when you feel like your coach is wrong, you still have to make him be right. Because when you're a leader, you know, you have to find ways, even in the darkest of moments, to be able to pull through and show everyone that, you know, this program is what I love. This program is what I believe in. I've worked those extra hours that nobody saw. I've created great relationships. That's the other thing that you guys have got to be really, really great at, is creating great relationships with your teammates and coaches. It's not just on the coaches to get to know you. You need to get to know your coaches. Like you need to know everything that makes that person tick, you know, so you can tell when coach is on a swing where he's getting a little bit emotional, and you've had enough conversations with him to know how to get him back where he might need to be, because the coach is human too, you know, and we all need sometimes that person to be able to reel us back in. You know, so players have that responsibility as well, is to, you know, I always had guys on the team that they could tell when I'm getting a little riled up, and certain guys knew that they can walk by me and give me a quirky little smile or something like that, or give me a little pat on the back, and I knew I would calm down then, you know, because I have a great relationship with this guy, and he's kind of reining me back in, as opposed to somebody that I kind of have that superficial, hey, here's a high five, here's a fist bump, you know, type of deal. So like leadership is huge, you know, in becoming a better player. It's not just your jump shot. It's not just those other things. It's your emotional IQ, you know, and I know that's a whole nother topic, but your emotional IQ is going to determine so much of what you are allowed to do, you know, at the college level, is how do you handle your emotions?
I think that's so true. I mean, how do you handle adversity, right? And I think
Yep.
one of the things last time we talked, Coach, that I really thought was important was that I'd love for you to talk a little bit more is about vulnerability and authenticity. Would you talk to the guys a little bit about, I know that was something that was a big thing I wrote down last time we talked, because I just really hit me when you talked about players having vulnerability and authenticity. And I'm going to head upstairs and plug in my phone or plug in my computer. So I'll be, if you want to talk about that when I'm relocating, that'd be awesome.
Yep, Coach. Absolutely. So one thing that we can discuss with that is we always talk about how we talk in our program. And it's big in our program that you learn how to speak. So a lot of guys that have left our program were not talkers when they came to my program. A lot of those guys are playing, you know, big time 4-year basketball. Some of them are, you know, doing EMT and fireman training and all types of stuff. I had another player this year who was on my staff, you know, and he really didn't, I mean, he talked as a funny guy, but he didn't talk in a serious way until, you know, he went through our program, and now he was checking guys and giving guys speeches and pushing guys, you know, as a staff member as he was finishing up his degree, you know, this year. But the only way that you can learn how to speak in front of people and become those leaders that we talked about is you have to be vulnerable. And it starts out with the head coach and the assistant coaches, but it also starts with the leaders that you create on the team. Everybody has to be willing to be vulnerable in those moments. And by vulnerability, I don't mean, you know, that you got to share everything in your life, but there are some moments where you do need to be able to like be open and honest with people and let them know, you know, what's going on in your world. And we give people opportunities, you know, in our circles at the end of practice to be able to share some things. You know, we talk about race, we talk about, you know, life issues. We talk about even, you know, when you're a boy and people tell you not to cry, like that is the dumbest thing that I've ever heard. And I get on coaches, anytime I hear coaches say stuff about like, no, man, he's too emotional. Nah, man, you can't tell a boy that and then also expect him not to become involved in domestic violence, right? You can't tell a boy to always put his emotions in check, and then all of a sudden, all he ever learns how to do is have it all pent up, and then all of a sudden it comes out the wrong way, and they end up doing something that they shouldn't be doing, you know, because they never learn how to express themselves, because all we ever tell our young men to do is suck it up, be tough, act like a man, don't act like a girl. And what does act like a girl mean? Because that doesn't make sense to me, because there's a lot of things that women do that are way tougher than us. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of tough girls out there that I'm just like, I wish my guy would play as hard as her. You know what I mean? Like that you can't, that saying needs to go away. Like stop acting like a girl. That's so ridiculous and old school. It needs to go away. And that mantra that I said last time, that thing that we say as players and coaches, that you're soft. We need to take that out, because soft gives off that same element of you're being girly, you're being emotional. When being emotional is okay when you learn how to deal with it. When you learn how to deal with those emotions, you got to learn how to talk about those things. And this year it went so far into having a color code, you know, with it. You know, we talked about not being in the red. You can't perform in the red. By the red means, you know, you're as far gone as you possibly can be. That means I'm as angry or as sad or as, you know, whatever I could possibly be outside of happy, right? Think of all the emotions that go along in life. You're all of those wrapped into one. And now, can you perform? Absolutely not. You know, you can't perform that way. Like, and you watch the Last Dance documentary, you've watched things on Kobe, you've watched things on LeBron, you've watched things on all these greats. And the consistent theme is those guys are so mentally tough. They're so mentally stable. You rarely ever see those guys have these emotional outbursts, you know, during a game. They're always playing in what we call the green. If you learn how to like live your day with green things is what we tried to talk about this year. Like, what do you eat? Like, there are certain foods that you can eat that will put you in a bad mood, right? Maybe you don't understand that about yourself, but there are certain foods that you eat that will put you in a crappy mood, right? There are certain songs you listen to that you might like, but they put you in a bad, negative space, right? Or an angry space, or whatever you want to call it. So, you know, there are books that you read. There are other things that you do throughout your day. There are parents, you know, if it's your parent, there's one of your parents that you talk to that puts you in the red and the other one puts you in the green, right? Do you know that about yourself? Your sister could put you in the red, right? Your brother could put you, you know what I mean? Like, there are so many things throughout your day that dictate where you're swinging emotionally. So next year, what we're going to do is we're going to have them create cards, right? We're going to have guys create cards. And it's like their hazard card. Like, these are things to avoid. I need to avoid my sister before a game because she's always talking to me about this nonsense, right? That pisses me off. Does everybody get what I'm saying? Like there's always someone that you know that's close to you that's going to put you in the red. And you maybe need to wait to talk to them after the game, right? Or after practice. So you don't show up to these spaces in the red, right? Maybe you need to avoid certain teachers or avoid certain, professors or whatever it may be, whatever your setup is. Other thing, like we said, was music. So what is your green playlist? I always ask my guys, what is your green playlist? What are the songs and artists that you can listen to that put you in a really good space? What foods do you eat that puts you in a really good space? How much sleep do you need to put you in a really good space? And once guys learn that and they learn how to do that, they get exponentially better. We had a lot of guys that really figured out, oh my goodness, I played so much better tonight because I only went to the yellow. And by yellow, I mean you get to the danger zone where you're getting close to going into red. But if you're living in the green, you only get to yellow. But if you show up and you're already in the yellow or you're already in the red, now all of a sudden you don't have any space to go. And now that referee calls that charge that everybody in the gym can see clearly it was a block, and you lose your mind, and now we've lost you for 8 minutes. Or as a coach, they've lost me for 8 minutes because I showed up in the red. So it's not just players, it's both of us. So what we use to get us to that space, though, is we learn to talk about things that allow us to show up in the green, right? Because if you don't learn to talk about, hey, man, we have a check-in circle before practice. Look, guys, man, I'm not feeling it today. I did crappy on the test. I'm in a really bad space. And guys know, okay, I know what's going on with my guy right now. So let me go over to him, and maybe let me pep him up today. I'm not going to get on his helmet as much today as I normally would, right? Because I know that he's showing up right now. He's not in a good space, place of mind to be here right now. So I can help him a little bit better. And that comes with that vulnerability, though, of that guy being able to check into that circle and say, look, guys, my mom called me today and I got some things going on. And I don't want to talk about it right now, but I just want to let you guys know my mind's not here right now. So now I know as a coach, hey, maybe he needs a couple of, extra times where I pull him to the side and just say, hey, man, I'm here with you. I believe in you. This team needs you. We love you. And that works for a lot of people. Just hearing those things, or just knowing that somebody cares as a teammate for you guys, if you guys can get really good at that, first of all, being open enough with yourself to be able to talk like that around your teammates, man, you will skyrocket up the charts in your locker room. Forget just, I need to be seen, I need to be recruited, I need to be loved on, I need to be all these things. That stuff happens after the fact. Those are the results of your hard work, of you becoming a better person, you becoming more vulnerable and open and able to discuss things. That's really where all this stuff begins and ends, is when you learn how to control your emotions and your emotions no longer control you, your basketball IQ will skyrocket. Your ability to perform will skyrocket. And the people that will follow you becomes exponentially greater because of the fact that they never see you out of pocket. They never see you as the loose cannon. They never see you as a guy that they got to go, man, if he would have just stayed with us for those 4 or 5 minutes, we would have been so much better off tonight. Right? Those things matter. And I think that's the stuff that I've been focusing more on in our program than the new offense, the new defense. Those things are important. Don't get me wrong. I'm not slighting those in any way, but we can have the best of those. And my guys don't know how to keep themselves in check. They don't know how to push each other. They don't know how to talk to each other. We're going to stink. We can have the best offense in the world, but we're going to stink if my guys can't culturally wrap their heads around how to push each other, how to love on each other, and how to be better every single day.
That's good stuff. I mean, you got to learn to control your emotions. You can't let them control you. I love your thought about, obviously getting rid of play like a girl, or you're acting like a girl. Because there is some girls that are tough, and there's some guys that aren't very tough, and I don't think it should be a gender thing or even just calling somebody a boy, or calling them, like you said, soft when they're starting to show emotions. And it is a interesting dynamic, because we're so, like you said, we're taught, oh, you got to be tough and you can't show emotion. But learning to be able to share your emotion and show that emotion is great, but then being able to control it is vital, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Absolutely.
learning to talk and communicate, and the best teammates show up in green, but the absolute best, they try to get everybody else into that green space too. And I think that good players show up green, great players try to get everybody else green too. And that's where the coach at the check-in circle, if the kid says, hey, I'm kind of yellow today, I'm, like you said, then hey, I'm going to give him a few extra taps, I'm going to give him a few extra fist bumps, or I'm going to give him a little bit more love today because he needs it. At the end of the day, so I think getting other players to be in that emotion, I mean, it's emotional intelligence, right? And then being emotionally agile to where you can empathize.
Absolutely.
And I think the last thing I'd love to cover, Coach, talking about empathy, because the last time before we talked, or this has happened since we've talked, is the protests and the Black Lives Matter movement. And I just wanted to address that because that's something that's been weighing on me and our program. And we're having these open discussions and dialogue about what it's like in our country. And obviously, I have no clue what it's like to be scared. When the cops pull me over, I'm like, well, what did I do? Was I speeding? And my friends are worried about, oh my gosh, like I might not make it. And so I just that's been a big conversation with our program. How have you been handling that with your team, Coach Drake?
In multiple ways. We've given them space to be able to really talk about it if they need to, if they want to share. And guys are, everybody's trying to figure out, how to say things. I have guys, and on a team you have different levels of guys willing to share, especially now since this is a new team. And guys are getting used to each other because, the old team's moving on and the new team's coming in, at our level, you got a pretty much a big overhaul, right? So with my team right now, everybody's getting used to each other. And so you have so many different personalities. And I have guys that have gone to protest. I have other guys that are trying to figure out what to do, and I have other guys that they're trying to learn. They want to learn. They're not educated on the topic, so they don't want to say anything. They don't want to say the wrong thing, and you have that gambit of different people, right? So I try to give them the space to be able to do that, but I also like to drop some nuggets because part of my job, in the school district that I work in is an equity specialist. So I have to be trained on courageous conversations around race, because I'm giving them to district personnel all the time, and how to, looking like me and being in a room full of, powerful, white guys, and telling them about race. That was, I'm not gonna lie, that was scary as hell for me, to be honest. Just, having to be able to be the one in the room that's supposed to be the most educated on this topic, but having to deal with my own emotions in that moment, and sharing that with my guys, that's a scary thing for me, even as a professional, in my 30s, and I'm just like, you have to learn how to be okay with the topic. And I'm not the coach that, you tell your guys, hey, you should be doing this or you should be doing that, because I know at that age, I was terrified of the topic. Absolutely terrified. I wouldn't speak on it. I wouldn't share anything. I barely even talked to my parents about it. Like I was as closed off to that as I possibly could be. So I empathize with those guys, the ones that are terrified to talk about it, honestly, because that was me. And I'm not going to be the hypocrite that goes, hey, man, you got to know the right things to say and you got to say the right things all the time. No, 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 no. I teach them that it's okay to say the wrong thing, but you have to learn from it. You got to ask questions, and you got to be uncomfortable. You got to be okay with being uncomfortable. I mean, that's the main part about having conversations about a topic like this is you cannot expect to go into a conversation like this and the other person leave with your views. That is not the goal. The goal is not for them to leave going, okay, I think just like Godfrey. No, 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 no. The goal is for me and you to have a conversation and we mutually respect each other enough to listen. And we got to both be active listeners. And I have to meet you where you are and not where I want you to be. That's where we all have to get better. And this whole thing is, I'm going to meet you where you are. I'm not going to expect you to change. I'm just going to be here and listen and try to get an understanding of your perspective. Once I get an understanding of your perspective and I share with you mine, now if we have some commonalities and some common ground, great. But I have to be okay if I leave that conversation and nothing changed. Nothing changed. I have to be okay with that. And that's uncomfortable as heck. And see, that's what people can't deal with. It's not a okay, 2 + 2 = 4 situation to where you can see, here's the goal, people, here's the goalpost, let's get it across right here. It is not that situation. The finish line is constantly moving in this topic. So it's something that you have to keep talking about. And if you don't keep talking about it and keep educating yourself about it, before you know it, it's moved on and it's changed and it looks different now. It looks different tomorrow than it did yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Like we see all these different things that are happening. So I talk to the guys all the time about being okay with discomfort is the biggest piece, and speaking your truth. That's the part that people really, really, really get themselves in trouble with, is they speak from things that they hear. They speak from things that other people have lived through, and they use that as their truth. Well, this is what I've heard. This is what, and no, you speak your lived experiences. What have you lived through? What have you seen? And if you haven't lived through that, then you don't need to be speaking on the topic. If you don't have any, your truth should be, oh, I just don't know. It's okay to say that. I don't know. Those are powerful words that people are so terrified of saying. I don't know. It's okay to say that. It's so many times in this conversation, people will ask me something because I'm Black and they'll expect me to know it. I'm just like, I don't know. I really don't know. I don't. And they're like, well, what do you mean you don't know? And I'm like, well, A, I can't speak for the entire race. B, I don't know. And that's what I mean. I don't know. And it's okay for me to tell you that I don't know. And you need to be accepting of that. So I think it's powerful for all you young men to learn to speak in your truth. What are your lived experiences? What do you know? What have you seen? That's your power. Your other power is being able to actively listen. Being okay with not listening to respond. Because that's what we all are trained to do, is listen to, okay, he just said blah, blah, blah. Let me be ready to say this. Instead of listening to listen. I'm listening to hear you. I'm listening to hear what your perspective is. And then if I have something to say when you're done, that's when I will speak. And you started by saying, so what I hear you say, so what I heard you said was, so you're basically giving the person the knowledge that, hey, first of all, I was listening to you. I heard you. And now this is what I feel, or I think, or the question that I have off of what you just said. That's active listening. So those are the things that we talk about. Those are the things we're going to work on this topic. I don't try to put my own views on them. So I do make my own posts. I used to be terrified of this topic because of where I grew up. Growing up in Mississippi, looking like me, you don't talk about race. You don't talk about anything to do with that. And I learned at an early age to just put it in there, zip it, keep it moving, let it go. and I did that up until, I started working for this district, and then this district put me in this role, and all of a sudden they're like, all right, man, you're an equity specialist. Now tell us about race. And it's like, wait a minute. I didn't know I was going to be going full fledged, over here telling people that have no idea about, what I've lived through, how to talk about race when they don't want to talk about it. And so I've lived in that discomfort for the last 4 years. So I'm okay with it now, so I'm okay speaking out now, and talking about things that have happened to me with cops, and like I've shared, with my players. I've shared with them, my personal story with my, the coaches that work with me. I've shared with them, that it was several times where in the city that my mom was a cop in, she's a cop in this city, assistant chief of police at that point in time. And I was coming home from college student, not doing anything, brand new car, and I get thrown out of the car and with guns drawn, the whole thing. They pulled up. It was 5 cop cars in the city that I grew up in, where my mother is the current assistant chief of police, and get thrown out of the car with my best friend and my other best friend. All 3 of us are college students, and they're giving us the business. And luckily enough, my mom was smart enough. When they got me that new car, she put her police ID in my pocket. And once they pulled that ID out of my pocket, you could see the soul in their whole bodies completely just leave, because they realized who I was. And I will say that that's privilege on my part, because I could totally be a statistic right now, had I not been my mother. I always wonder, like, what really would have happened to me that night, if it hadn't been for my mom, and that happened to me again, like 2 years later on an interstate going through Texas. And I share that with my players, and so I see this going on right now, and I'm like, okay, we have a healthy responsibility as coaches right now to be vulnerable and to show that we're visibly frustrated and we don't have the answers. So right now, I just post things, about either how I'm feeling, or, right now I've been doing 30,000 steps a day, to kind of get my frustrations out, and I call it my walk for George, and I've been posting about that. Been 15 days in a row, 16 today, 2,000 steps away. So after this, I got.
Oh yeah, we don't want to keep you. We got to make sure we get those 30,000. I won't keep you much longer, Coach. That's good. That's awesome. I love that. I love that you're talking about speaking your truth, and that it's okay to say I don't know. And I think that those are things that are so important, and meet people where they're at, not where you're at or where you want them to be. I think that's a huge takeaway, because sometimes we want everybody to be where we are. And so I think being able to have that I wrote down courageous conversations.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great phrase, and it's so true, because so many times we're scared of, well, I don't know, like, are they African American, or is my buddy Black, or I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they say. And so instead of saying, hey, do you want me to call you Black or African American, we just don't say anything. And
exactly.
Scared of what is going to happen. And so I think that that's a great lesson for everybody, is just being open about it. And I think I feel like this is I feel like this is going to make a change. I feel like there's enough of a movement and enough of, I think of it like pushing over a refrigerator, right? Like something pushes it a little bit and you kind of get it rocking, and, Kaepernick kneels and it's swaying a little bit more. And then all of a sudden you can actually push it over and see it change. But yeah, so I really do appreciate you sharing that with us, Coach Drake, and being open and honest with us. And I love reading your posts, and definitely know you're not just saying stuff, you're actually implementing change and tangible things and conversations, and being comfortable, being uncomfortable is a life skill, and being able to have tough conversations, because you're going to have tough conversations in life. And so why not try to teach college men young men that here's how you have a courageous conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it comes down to in the end. I just tell my guys all the time, I'm like, look, man, sometimes you got to fake it till you make it. I mean, I didn't think I was going to be in rooms as an internship coordinator with the big wigs at Microsoft that I spend time with sometimes. You know, they help our guys get internships in the school district and at Amazon and all these places where you got guys that their planes will crush you, their wallets will crush you, you know, and you got to stand in front of these guys sometimes and have conversations about race. You know, that's as uncomfortable as it possibly can get, you know, when you're dealing with not even just a race difference, but you're dealing with, you know, money, dealing with a whole different type of money. So, you know, it was just dealing with just the fact that we're different in certain ways. And I just tell them, you know, I just said to myself, you know, what's the worst that can happen when I'm just open and honest with these guys? If they say, you're wrong, well, okay, you know, and I got once I told myself that, I was like, I mean, what is he gonna crush me with his black card? Like it, you know, like because he has an unlimited amount of money he can go spend. Is his opinion gonna like hit me in the face? You know, so I had to get over myself basically and just say, you know what, this person's gonna leave, and I'm gonna leave, and they're gonna know that I respected them in that conversation, and that I was not trying to push any agendas. But I'm gonna share my truth, and I hope that you share your truth. And during that, there's probably going to be a lot of uncomfortable moments, but we're also going to learn more about each other. And through that, we've created a bridge that's going to later on, that person's going to be more courageous to have more conversations with other people. So it's not even about your conversation and coming back to that person again. It's just about getting people, you know, courageous enough just to have the conversation, because a lot of people can't even talk about it in their own house. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of people that are afraid to have those conversations with their parents, afraid to have that conversation with their siblings and friends and all of those types. So it's not even about you going out and having a random conversation with the public. It's about you learning how to have it with those that you love the most. You know, like me having to have that conversation with my mother-in-law was like the longest conversation of my life, you know, but we also left it and I'm like, I really understand you better now. I get your quirks now, you know, and it wasn't me leaving going, I can't believe she said, you know, like when you take that stuff out of it and really just listen to understand, if you don't take anything else from anything I say, if you just learn to listen to understand and not to be heard and learn to just only speak your truth, your conversations will drastically change. When I learned how to do that, people were like, man, talking to you is like, it's so comforting. And I'm just like, well, because I'm not talking, you know, you know, because it's that thing that we all do, you know, like say somebody dies, you know, what's the first thing you say? Well, I remember when my such and such died. They don't need to hear that from you. They just need you to be there. You know what I mean? Just somebody to just listen. We're not good at that. And I wasn't good at that. So I'm not playing it like I've been good at this for a long time. I just got good at this and I realized, oh my goodness, you can corner the market of people if you just shut up. You know, and you actually just listen and they just know you're listening. People like actually want to talk to you. It's a crazy concept.
Crazy, but it's 100% accurate. I mean, that's the truth, is just active listening and listening to understand and not trying to listen to respond and try to change them. And it's just, yeah, having a healthy conversation, but definitely lots of times it's just, hey, like that's what I've been saying to my friends is, hey, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to try to say, oh, I remember when it was like when I was, no, I'm white. Like, I mean, I have privilege. There's a lot of things that I'm able to do in this country. And I have empathy. I listen. I'll educate myself. I think that's one thing that more people should do is just educate themselves rather than just listening to one source or even one Black friend, you know?
Thank you.
Like,
yes.
right? Like that, isn't that like just, oh, my one Black friend said this, so it has to be true.
Yeah, exactly. Because I always tell people, I'm like, be careful with that because there are so many different layers of being black. You know what I mean? Like, I could grow up on the same street as somebody else, some other black guy on my street, and we have two totally different experiences growing up on the same exact street. So to him, it might be, oh, this is all blown out of proportion. You know, cops never do this. And to me, because I've actually lived it, it's like, what the heck are you saying? You know, so it's again, take the emotions out of it, actually have the conversation, speak your truth. And he tells me, I've never had a run-in at cops. Cops are good to me. Cops are this and cops are that. And if I go, no, you are wrong, I'm wrong in that situation because that's his lived experience. That's his truth. He has not had that experience. But he also needs to respect the fact that I've had a different one. And he can't tell me that my different experience doesn't matter in that situation, right? So we both have to leave that going, you know what? He has had the privilege of not experiencing that, and I'm happy for him. I'm not mad at him because, oh, you're not down because this never happened to you. I don't, what, we supposed to have some card to walk around with, hey, have you been harassed before? Oh, you know, you're not cool, man. You never got harassed by the police. Like, that's dumb. And you see a lot of that going around on both sides where, you know, people are like, well, just listen. Just listen to the police or just do this or just do that. And until you've been in that actual moment where someone has a gun pointed at you, you have no idea what you will respond with. You have no idea how you will do anything. So I just tell people, you know, don't speak for others. Don't speak for things that you've heard. Only speak on your own truths and you will always be safe. There's nothing someone else can get mad about when you're only speaking your truth and you also listen to theirs. Now you can speak your truth and then be rude to somebody else about their truth. And now you've lost the conversation because now you're like, oh, well, I don't believe you. Or this is what I think. Don't get into the debate. This is not a debate topic. You know, you debate over, you know, do I want steak tonight or do I want eggs? You know what I mean? That's a debate. This is not a debate topic. This is a empathetic topic. This is a topic where we all need to just hear. We all need to listen. And then when somebody's turn to share, everybody needs to tune in and say, oh, wow. Either I'm happy that didn't happen to you or I'm sad that that did happen to you. Tell me more so I can understand. That if we get to that place, all this nonsense goes away. If we get to that place, because then when you start putting yourself, oh, that's my friend. That's happened to my friend. That can happen anywhere. If that happened to him and I love that guy or I love that girl or I love that whatever, we're going to go to a whole different place when we get to that space because that's when we're all trying to figure out how to move forward together because now it's no longer I'm a part of this party, I'm a part of that party, and all this other jazz. So you players, I know this is tough for you guys because at that age, it's not the easiest thing to talk about. So don't ever get it twisted. Don't ever let any of us adults put these thoughts in your head that you guys have to have it figured out with this kind of stuff right now. But if you don't take anything else away, just learn to talk about yourself. What have you seen? What has happened to you? What, you know, what have you witnessed yourself? Not on Fox News, not on CNN, but what have you actually lived through? You know, and what has that person lived through? And now you guys have a discussion and listen. And that's it. And you guys are golden. And read, man. There's so much stuff out there to read right now. We're all in quarantine and it sucks. You know, this is a great time to get ahead and reading, fellas. Like, I know it's not fun to say, man, I'm reading a bunch of books. I used to think the same way, but then when I actually started reading, I was like, man, they've been hiding all this stuff in these books all this time. These guys are pretty clever. They're slick with it.
Hiding it. They're hiding the good information in those books, and sometimes it's hard to find, Coach. Well, hey, out of respect for your time and everybody's time, I appreciate you sharing that, Coach. I definitely respect what you're doing as a program. I definitely am going to be following you guys and helping and supporting how I can, and definitely brought in a lot of good players this year. So I'm excited to see how you're able to get them all to mesh and buy in and get them going in the same direction. But definitely really do appreciate your time, Coach, because after last time we talked, I was like, man, I got to get Godfrey back and share some of that knowledge with these guys. So definitely thank you.
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me, man. And they're definitely gonna keep watching the Pacific program. Obviously, love what Brant's doing. And Justin, all you guys are just doing some amazing things, there. And I'm definitely excited to watch what you guys are doing. And like you said, we did bring in some very talented guys. So just looking forward to being able to get them in the gym and moving this program much further than we are right now. So appreciate you guys having me.
Keep dominant. I'm excited to see what you guys do in the NWAC. So I appreciate it again. I'm going to unmute everybody. So if you guys want, or you can unmute yourself if you want to give Coach Drake a shout.